The Penn World Voices Festival of International Literature starts tonight here in New York. It's the only gathering that celebrates international literature in the United States, and it features 150 writers from 40 countries in over 50 events. Joining me now are two of the festival's participants, Salman Rushdie, president of the Penn American Center, chair of the festival, and the author of 10 novels, including Midnight's Children, which is the winner of the Booker's Award, and Caro Llewellyn, an accomplished writer in her own right, the director of Penn World Voices. She was the director and CEO of Sydney Writers Festival for 4 years. I'm very pleased to welcome them to our show. It's always a pleasure to see you, Salman.
Hi, nice to be back.
I was kind of surprised to hear that this is the only festival for international literature in the United States. Are there similar festivals in other parts of the world?
I think, all over the world. There are not festivals that have the mission of Penn. There is one, International Penn have set up a festival in London called Free the Word, which is based on the model that we've set up here. But in the United States, the tendency tends to be for American writers, and there is not the international focus that we've brought to New York.
No, it seemed amazing to me 6 years ago that New York is a city which has international festivals of everything. It has festivals of art and music and film and everything you can think of, and it seemed nuts that there wasn't an international literary festival. So. We do
read a lot of books by foreign writers.
Yeah, I mean, we'd read more if more were translated, and that was also one of the things we wanted to highlight. But when we started this 6 years ago, we really had no idea how people would respond. It's a very busy cultural program here in the city, and to put another big event into it, you might be foolhardy. But instead, what happened is that it exceeded our wildest dreams. People flooded to it, and they've been going on doing it year after year.
Well, as Caro mentioned, much of Penn's efforts are to protect the rights of writers throughout the world. Will that be part of the focus of the festival?
Absolutely. This year is the 50th anniversary of Penn's work on behalf of persecuted writers, and so we're going to be drawing attention to that on every stage. At every event, we will have an empty chair, which will represent a writer who can't join us because of the persecution that they've had because of their work.
How big a problem is it these days? Is it still something that we see all over the world?
I'm sorry to say that it might be bigger all the time. People thought when the Soviet Union fell that problem was coming to an end, but actually, you look around the world, whether it's China or Africa or various Arab countries and so on, it's often it's a very tough time for writers right now. And one of the things, actually, I think that's nice is that we can turn it into a celebration. We can turn it into a way of looking at people's work as work, not just because they're in jail or tortured, but to talk about them as artists. And I think that's what they would want.
So that's something that distinguishes this festival among all the other reasons. This festival, you wind up with one of the largest festivals in the world, don't you?
Yeah, but it's also, it's partly because of the enormous attraction of New York City. Everybody wants to come.
I know. It's so much easier to get people to come. When I was in Sydney, I used to have to say, well, we'll fly you to Australia. It's only 24 hours and we can put you in economy. And now I say, we'll fly you to New York. And people are like, yes, absolutely, I'll come. So
it does mean that we have. And also, I think the festival's now built a kind of reputation, so people want to be part of it. And I think one of the things is, when we started this 6 years ago, we were feeling then that there was a kind of breakdown in communication between the United States and the rest of the world, and that at least at the level of art, the level of literature and ideas, we could do something to restart that conversation.
Are there still places that are resistant? Because there are, I've seen writers from all over the world who blame the United States for every problem that exists.
Yeah, the writers are a little more even-handed than non-writers, I think.
I think in the past we have had, I know that we have, in the past few years, there were a couple of people who said that they didn't want to come to the United States because they just couldn't stand or stomach the government. And that, we have not had that since Barack Obama has been in, I'm happy to say.
And then there have been boycotts in some European festivals because people objected to certain people being invited.
Yeah, I think all of that more or less changed with the change of the administration here. I mean, I think one of the things we've been able to do is highlight, for example, Arab literature. I mean, the first year we had a lot of Arab writers. This year, one of the things that I'm really happy about is that we're doing these dramatized readings of plays originally written in Arabic as a way of showing the literature of that world.
Well, PEN stands for Poets, Playwrights, Essayists, and Novelists.
Yeah, I keep trying to squeeze more things into that acronym.
Well, you can make it as alliterative as possible. Poets, Playwrights, Essayists, earnest.
Exactly. I want to get songwriters and all kinds of writers in there.
And you've included music in this year's festival, haven't you?
Yeah, well, we have the great Patti Smith for a start, which is for me a great thrill because I grew up worshipping Patti Smith. So the idea that we get to hear her in conversation with Jonathan Lethem is a special treat.
Well, you double dip with her because she also has published any number of books,
yes,
poetry,
exactly.
And most recently a memoir.
Yeah,
exactly.
She's a wonderful poet, and her memoir, Just Kids, is out. And so, yeah, she'll be talking to Jonathan Lethem on Saturday, May the 1st at Cooper Union. And also the other musical element that we have, which we're really excited about, is Natalie Merchant at our cabaret on Saturday evening. And that will be quite something.
Well, she's just recently put out a CD of songs that were written a long time ago. At least the lyrics were.
Yeah, well, they were based on poems, so it's very relevant for us. So that's a thrill too.
Well, a festival of this sort is obviously something that can't be thrown together. How long have you been planning this year's event?
Well, since the day after the last one finished.
Really?
Really. And I have to say...
Don't you just say, hey, come back next year, we'll do this again?
I have to say, I'm just the guy who signs the letters. I mean, it's really Caro and her team at Penn who do all the heavy lifting on this. But yeah, it does take a lot of planning. I mean, I think sometimes you're fortunate. For instance, we have a program, a very good one, put together about weather issues, and it couldn't be more topical than right now in the immediate aftermath of the volcano. To have weather, it's called Weather Report. What can we do? And that's on Thursday at 8, and it's just discussing. Hasn't the weather been strange lately? Here's an angry planet fighting back, and we couldn't be more topical. In fact, we are very lucky that the thing changed when it did, the weather, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get half the writers here.
I know it was a very nail-biting week last week, I have to tell you.
We can only hope that Iceland doesn't cause any more trouble. Do we have any Icelandic writers, or did Icelandic literature end with Kristen Lavransdottir?
No, we banned Icelandic writers as a protest about the volcano.
Yeah, all the stress that volcano caused us.
So how do you determine who you want to have and who you don't want to have? Is controversy a factor here?
Well, I think you have to have a mix. You obviously have to have, and we would want to have, a certain number of the best-known names in world literature, because you just need that, straightforwardly. But we've always tried to, first of all, find who are the kind of up-and-coming, kind of hot young writers, and try and introduce them to an American readership.